Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. I have begun to think about next year's Historathon event. Actually, I'm thinking about the first quarter of Historathon. Now, Historathon is an event initially created by Vin at Revenant Reads. And the objective is to encourage people to read a little bit more history. The year has been subdivided into quarters. So the first section from January through March is prehistory through 500 CE. Then April through June would be 500 to 1500. July through September would be 1500 to 1820. And October to December would be 1820 through till the present. So I'm thinking immediately about that first quarter. So the ancient world, more or less. I should say also that Vin at Revenant Reads has enlisted a handful of co-hosts who take some of the hosting duties with him. So this is the third year of the event. If you've been watching my channel, you've seen me in the last couple of months reading some books by Mark Edward Lewis. I read the early Chinese empires, Qin and Han, and then China between empires. What does it say? The northern and southern dynasties. So both of these would fit into the first quarter Historathon period. And then I finished this month the third book in the series by Lewis, China's Cosmopolitan Empire, covering the Tang Dynasty, which begins a little after 500. It's there's another one that's right before the Tang Dynasty, which is covered as well, but a very brief dynasty. So the next books in the series are written by different hands. The Age of Confucian Rule, The Troubled Empire, and China's Last Empire. So these, initially my plan was to be reading those. That was without thinking about Historathon, but none of these, of course, will fit the bill for first quarter Historathon reading. So, did I show you this? A year ago I said I was going to read this, and then I never did. And I also had thought about doing it, but I've decided that I would rather stick to Asia and stick to China. This year, for the first quarter, I read a book about the Hittites by O.R. Gurney, and I read Ancient Iraq by George Rue. I really enjoyed those, but this year I'm thinking of trying to stay in the environs of ancient China. I picked up a book by Trevor Bryce that I would like to get to one of these days. I have something on the Persians, the ancient Persians. And I just came across it. I have no idea even why I have this, the graves of Tarim. And it narrates the movement of an old diaspora across the Indian Ocean over the past 500 years. Well, the past 500 years would not put me into the right span either. I was thinking it was older than that. So that's out. But I thought that I would stick with ancient China, which is going to put me into the realm of archaeology. And I have a couple of books that have been on my shelf for a long time, and they were books that were hard to get. It was hard to figure out what the books to get were, and then it was hard to find them. But I have the Western Zhao civilization, either way, I guess, and then Eastern. So this one is translated by Casey Chang, who was a favorite author of mine when I was very young. So I am thinking of going with these. So this predates the stuff that I read by Mark Edward Lewis. This predates the Qin and the Han dynasties, and it's an area I've long wanted to know more about, an area, and well, that too. Prior to reading the Harvard series, which I just showed you, the Mark Edward Lewis books and the three others, I had no clue at all about the sweep of Chinese history. And so with those three books, I've got the first little bit figured out, some. And I never knew how these, how basically this, the Zhao dynasty, fit into the bigger picture, and now I do. It started in the West and then moved to the East. That was a pretty common movement, actually. So I'm thinking of those. They've been on my shelf for a long time, maybe a little bit outdated, but worth the while. If I feel like touching back with the Han Dynasty, I have a book in the Yale series as well. I don't know. Mark Edward Lewis used some maps from this book. I don't know if I really need to go back to this at this time. I think somewhere they have all of the titles on the back. Yeah, here it is. So they have Shang civilization, then Eastern, and this, of course, is the Western, and then Han, and then, yeah. So now, Shang civilization, or Shang, as I'm sure I would say, I don't know what the right way to say it is. This is a book by Casey Chang, and I read this book some years ago, not very fruitfully. I find archaeology very hard going, but I've decided pretty much that I'm not going to reread this, even though I could do with a rereading. But before doing these, I might consider reading Casey Chang's early, the archaeology of ancient China. I think I've read some of this. It was a mammoth in my eyes. When I first acquired it, it's been one of the oldest books on my shelf pertaining to China. And I think I may have read a little bit of it. So I think it may be fruitful just to start here and then move into the Western and then Eastern Zhao dynasty. I never know how to pronounce words in Chinese. So that is possibly my thought. I thought I would show you also some other possibilities, but not likely. Somehow, and I have no idea why, I have two books by this guy, and this one I remember really seemed interesting to me. I didn't realize I had this. And when I tried to give it a go some years back, I could not stand the author's writing style. I don't know if it's worth a try again or not. So it's something for me to consider. Possibly I should do with the generic introduction first and then go back to this. And so this one, Early China, it may appeal to me more now that I have a little bit more of a familiarity. And then another book that I would like to cover is Sexual Life in Ancient China. But just glancing through it now, I can see that the title is a bit of a misnomer. It looks like it covers all the way through, well, there's the Ming Dynasty. So, yeah, so it does not restrict itself to the ancient world, but still, it might be something to do to bridge the gap. I'm not I'm not intending to match these books up with the Historathon period. When those months roll around, I will probably put a priority on this if I do actually finish those other books. So I took a lot of pleasure out of learning about China in this last part of the year. And so I just want to keep my focus there at least for a while. So AD 381 will have to wait a bit. I don't know if any of this would be useful to you, but I thought I would show those books and share my plans. The best laid plans often go astray, as I know very well, especially reading plans. So thank you very much for stopping by my channel.